Hello everyone, welcome to another video in the Q&A series here on the Aviation Pro channel, coming to you from beautiful sunny Lima. Great destination all the way in Peru. Great weather here, some really nice scenes, really nice to go out for some walking and some biking. I can highly recommend visiting this place if you ever get to visit this. Another question to answer in a Q&A series where we kind of gain some aviation knowledge one question at a time. Remember, if you have a question that you want to post and have featured potentially in this Q&A series, make sure you check out the description below to post your question in the question box. And today we got a question from Bravo77 Whiskey. Thank you, Bravo77 Whiskey, for posting your question. A special wing wave to you. And the question is, at what altitude do you turn on or off the landing lights and passenger signs on departure or arrival into a high altitude airport like Bogota or Addis Ababa airport, etc.? Very good question, Bravo77 Whiskey. Of course, airports sometimes are at high altitude. This airport here in Lima, not that much, even though the Andes is close. You have to cross the Andes and then land pretty much at sea level. But indeed, other airports like Bogota or Quito or Johannesburg are really high altitude airports. And you can definitely, there are definitely some special procedures surrounding high altitude airports and some things you have to think about. In regards to your question though, when do you turn on and off the landing lights and the passenger signs? Now you can imagine, normally that's really done at around 10,000 feet. That's kind of a nice a mark at which you let the cabin crew prepare for the landing and prepare the cabin, secure everything, and also to turn the landing lights and the seatbelt signs on at the same time. But you can imagine if you do that at 10,000 feet on your altimeter, and when you arrive at an airport that's at 8,000 feet, you're going to be quite late with things because technically you are letting the cabin prepare only 2,000 feet above the ground. So we simply add the elevation to that 10,000 feet in order to start that process, okay? So if you arrive at an airport that's at 8,000 feet, we would already let the cabin crew prepare for landing at 18,000 feet and then also turn the landing lights on and the seatbelt sign on. Now there are some things you have to think about here because the passenger signs especially, in a lot of aircraft you have an auto function, kind of depending on the configuration of the airplane and on the altitude. Kind of differs maybe per airline, but on the altitude it will turn on automatically. Now it could, for example, turn on automatically at 10,000 feet, but if you are arriving into a high altitude airport, you cannot leave that switch on auto. You really have to turn it to on in order to make sure that the seatbelt sign is actually on during the arrival. So at 80,000 feet, it will make a little announcement to let the cabin crew prepare for landing, and then turn the landing lights on and actually turn the seatbelt sign on the overhead panel. Another thing you have to think about, you may know, at 10,000 feet is kind of the cutoff point where you switch from a higher speed descent to 250 knots or less, okay? And here the same applies. I mean, if you arrive with, 300 knots into an 8,000 feet airport, when you're at 10,000 feet, you're flying way too fast, right? So also the speed transition to a lower speed, to like 240 or 250 knots below 10,000 feet, we also do that, at a higher altitude. So for example, 18,000 feet in order to slow down for the approach. Okay, so that's something that you can enter in the FMS. You can just enter when the speed transition should occur, and then you can increase that altitude at which that should happen, all right? Now, same for the departure, same thing, you can also change that speed transition. Especially the seatbelts are important here. In most cases, if you fly at low altitude airports, you can leave the seatbelt signs to auto, but you actually have to turn them on because otherwise, when you depart from 8,000 feet, the seatbelt sign will already turn off at 2,000 feet above the airfield, because that will read 10,000 feet on the altimeter. So you really have to turn that seatbelt sign physically on, and then when you pass 18,000 feet and that the weather is clear and there's no turbulence or anything, then you can put the switch back to auto and it will turn off the seatbelt sign in the cabin. All right, so that's kind of how that works. You simply add the elevation of the airport, and then in that way you can let the cabin crew and the passengers prepare in time for landing, have them all seated, and then make your nice landing or departure into a high altitude airport. Because high altitude airports are really nice. You can see some pictures here. It's really, of course, maybe there will be some more other videos on this topic, but yeah, there's quite there's some dedicated procedures, and you have to really carefully manage your descent profile, your speeds. The go-around might be special, also one engine go-arounds and one engine takeoffs, in case of an engine failure, are really procedures you have to look into at these airports. So it's always very interesting to fly into one of these airports. All right. I hope that answers your question, Bravo 77 Whiskey. Again, if you have a question you want to have answered in this Q&A series, make sure you check out the link in the description. It will take you to a little Google form where you can leave your question, and then who knows, your question might be answered in the next Q&A video. All right. Cheers for now from Lima. I hope you have a good day, and I will see you on the next one.